Thank you so much for discovering the secrets of consciousness with me. Thank you so much for joining today. So here we step right in the middle of it, and this is the last episode of this series, Discovering the Last Secret. And that's not a little thing. So it's like the eight secrets that we have discovered, in fact, comes down to one and the same. And in fact, what we look at today has everything to do with the totality of the realization. Now, we love the idea of spiritual realization. We love to hear about it, write about it, listen about it, because it can look, I'm not saying that it is, but it can look that it is a bit like far away from ourselves, and it's like, okay, that will come. That's at least good tidings will come, and that's wonderful. Like, hopefully one day that will come to me, just like that. And that makes it also easy, like to a certain degree. It's almost like nice to hear for your ego mind. Like, see, the efforts that I'm doing finally will result in illumination or spiritual realization. And this is the part that doesn't really work. That's basically a barricade against spiritual realization, thinking that your efforts will bring that about. Now that asks for more information. I can't say that, but now you're going to walk away and say, like, well, why am I doing this? Why would I even listen to you then? And that's a good question. It's like, that's a good question, because the spiritual awakening is not working the way that you think it works. And you might already have come to the point where you have no idea about it anymore and just are in fact practicing the exercises that you can do or doing the meditations that you can do, but that doesn't mean that's all quiet and good. So it's like the things you have to recognize for yourself in the spiritual realization or the realization of truth is in fact come to terms with what you are perceiving, come to terms with what you are thinking, coming to terms in the sense of you have to see that has no relationship with truth at all. And this is very interesting because, like, there's always new doors opening up in terms of realization of what is actually happening. Now, today I'm like, just an example. Today I'm involved in messages that are coming to me about this world, like massacres, dictators, violence, revolt, terror, deep fear, and all this that is connected to this world. Now, this is a really good example, because what you have been doing and what you have learned to deal with so-called this world is to at least distance you from what you think is not right, and distance you from who you think is not right. And you can be pretty busy doing so the whole day. It's like, oh, luckily I'm not that. I'm not as bad as this guy, or I'm not as bad as what's happening there, or luckily that didn't happen to my family, or who knows what you think. Like, the way that you have dealt with this world, as Joel says it, like this world, is really like, I'm on the lucky side of it. Mostly I'm on the lucky side of it. I'm really happy that doesn't happen to me. Like, I'm sorry for my neighbor, but I'm happy that it doesn't happen to me. Like, your luck is based on your comparison, which is a very, very poor thing, of course. That's a very poor thing, because what do? You literally separate yourself. Now, this I'll come back to that later, and I don't want to. Well, I want to let you feel something here, and that certainly happens. It's like there's literally no escape in this world from either part, the good part or the bad part, whatever you think that means. Like there's no, you choose to invest in it, you choose to be part of it, you choose that as your reality, you get all of it. And you are all of it. You're literally all of it. Every aspect of it, you are that. All the things that seem so impossible, all the things that seem so unjust, your thinking is part of that. That is what this world is. Now, to face that completely and to recognize that as this part of yourself that you have been taking as reality is really what has to be undone in you. Like the idea that you think that you are that, in order to come to the realization of truth. Right? In order to come to recognize what is truly occurring. Who am I truly? Know thyself is like this important expression. Like know thyself, that's why this starts with. Now here we have the difficulty here. Like to talk about realization and spiritual realization, you can find plenty of videos on YouTube about that. But the part that I'm talking about is not so popular. The inclusion of your total investment in this world, the inclusion of every aspect of it, not distancing yourself from what you are thinking, but recognizing it, that it's all totally insane. And recognizing that you need help. Recognizing that, oh my God, I really thought I was on the good side of things. That my differentiation made sense and actually put me in the place of not being guilty about all of this. And that's too late. That is not working that way. That is not your way out of it. You will have to recognize that the world, this world that you see, is literally what you have taken for reality and have adjusted to and have changed your, you switch back and forth into what you think is right and acceptable, but you've never questioned the reality of it. Now this, of course, now you do. You come more and more in the realization none of it is true. And in that recognition, you can actually escape this world. Then you recognize, I am not of this world. Then you recognize who you truly are. That comes immediately, like suddenly there's space for that. And this is really what we call the spiritual realization of truth, the realization of truth. Truth is spiritual. Truth is true. Like it, you can say, like, is it spiritual or not? It's like, well, truth is everything. Truth is true. And it doesn't come with a term. Because if I say spiritual, then can also be things not spiritual. They're like, no, it has one nature. It is made of the same substance. It is only itself, nothing else. There's no comparison to be made. There's no right side or wrong side of truth. No, there's just truth. So this recognition of the inclusion, in fact, of your total denial of this truth brings us, and that's also why we're here, brings us to a place where the urgency is like all over your head, so it's all over you. You have an urgency to be here. We stated this before the meeting started, after a little conversation. It's like, we have an urgency to be here. That's why we're here. And that's not because everything is so great and so wonderful. No. It is a bit of practice to come to realize that if I want truth to be true, I have to let go of a lot of stuff, of what I think I am, or how I think I'm doing everything so right, and trying to stay out of the guilt trip that is very sticky around, still making this world real. Like we have an urgency because we make this world real. We really think that something is occurring, and we really think that there's good and bad in it, and you're justified in your good and justified to say like no to bad. So this is the urgency where we meet. Now Joel comes today with a very, very, I cannot not say like this is to me a totally different poem from Joel that is so quantum physics, you could say, that is so different, so incredible, wide open in consciousness, that it's at the same time incredibly rejuvenating or restoring ourselves to. Wow, yes, this is a secret. Like the realization of truth is an incredible secret. It is a mystical secret, and it can only be like revealed to you. It cannot even be described to you. I think this poem or this prayer that we use from Joel is absolutely incredible to use for this specific thing that we find ourselves in right now. So that's why I'm going to do that. I am the life of the grass. I am the life of the tree. I am the life of the ocean. I can look up from under the sea and see the sky. But at the same time, I can look down from the sky and see the sea. I can look out from a tree and see the birds, and at the same time be the bird that is sitting on the branch of the tree. I am the life of all being. I'm consciously sitting on a star, or inside of a star, looking out at this world, while at the same time looking up from the ground at the star. I am the life of the stone, and at the same time I'm looking up from the ground at the stone. I am here, and I am there, and I am everywhere. I permeate all creation. I can see in every direction at once, and always as if my selfhood were centered in just one tiny spot, and yet in every spot at the same moment. I am the life of every person around me. I am the mind. I am the law, and I am the power of grace unto them. I am the way. I am the truth, and I am the life.
Je suis la vie de l'herbe. Je suis la vie de l'arbre. Je suis la vie de l'océan. Je peux lever les yeux depuis les profondeurs de la mer et voir le ciel, mais en même temps, je peux regarder depuis les hauteurs du ciel et voir la mer. Je peux regarder du haut d'un arbre et voir les oiseaux et en même temps être l'oiseau perché sur la branche de l'arbre. Je suis la vie de tout être. Je suis consciemment assis sur une étoile ou à l'intérieur d'une étoile, contemplant ce monde tout en levant les yeux du sol vers l'étoile. Je suis la vie de la pierre et au même moment, je regarde à partir du sol la pierre. Je suis ici, je suis là, je suis partout. Je suis omniprésent dans toute la création. Je peux voir toutes les directions à la fois et toujours comme si mon individualité était concentrée en un seul point minuscule et pourtant en chaque lieu au même moment. Je suis la vie de chaque personne qui m'entoure. Je suis l'esprit, je suis la loi et je suis la puissance de la grâce pour chacun. Je suis le chemin, je suis la vérité et je suis la vie.
All right. Thank you for joining in the meditation. So this, I really thought this is a wonderful, wonderful prayer or wonderful poem, really, to use today. So it tells you also about the universality, like the totality of your truth. Like it has no exceptions. It is complete. It is everywhere. But it has nothing to do with your ideas or definitions about it. So this we will see in different ways today too. Before Abraham was, I am. This is from John. The Jews answered him, are we not right in saying that you are a Samaritan and have a demon? Jesus answered, I do not have a demon, but I honor my Father, and you dishonor me. Yet I do not seek my own glory. There is one who seeks it, and he is the judge. Truly, truly, I say to you, if anyone keeps my word, he will never see death. The Jews said to him, now we know that you have a demon. Abraham died, as did the prophets. Yet you say, if anyone keeps my word, he will never taste death. Are you greater than our father Abraham, who died, and the prophets died? Who do you make yourself out to be? Jesus answered, if I glorify myself, my glory is nothing. It is my Father who glorifies me, of whom you say, he is our God. But you have not known him. I know him. And if I were to say that I do not know him, I would be a liar to you. But I do know him, and I keep his word. Your father Abraham rejoiced that he would see my day. He saw it and was glad. So the Jews said to him, you are not yet 50 years old, and you have seen Abraham? Jesus said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. So they picked up stones to throw at him, but Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple. Yeah, I could say, like, it is a miracle, really. It is a moment of realization, like it's a love invitation. Jesus, in fact, invites you here to recognize what he has recognized and where he's coming from. That's all. not the justification of it fits in the history, not the justification of the numbers and the statistics and all this and what you have learned and use against, like even in spiritual circles, to use against each other what you have learned. And that is not what this is about. So that makes it really beautiful, because it's like Jesus invites the Jews to come and say take part in this experience that he is having. He knows God. He's in communication with God, and he's immediately rejected. Like he is a representation of Christ's mind, and he's immediately attacked. Like they're stoning him. So that's quite an attack. Now that is just so illustrative, you could say, for what happens. It's like you are either making this world real, you're either believing anything here to be real, and you miss out on the realization of truth. Because in fact, it has nothing to do with limitation. It has nothing to do with your definitions or your ideas about it. So here, there's an offering. Here's an invitation. Joel tells us too, in the meditation, you're every part of it. You cannot distinguish between which part you are and you're not. No, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. And that is not a definition of myself. That is what I breathe. That is what I am. That is the manifestation of the Christ within me, like expanding this light that is given me. It is not mine. It is given me. It is an extension of God through me. It has nothing to do with my ideas, but it's there. And it is defenseless. It is wholehearted. It is true. And that is all. It has always been. Like it has always been. It's infinite. It's omnipresent. It's infinite. It is always here. If you come from a human perspective, this doesn't have a place, really. It's like that does not have a place, because you cannot work your duality on it. You cannot work your opposites on it. Well, is he a good guy or is he a bad guy? I'm trying to find out if he's okay, if he's a good guy or not. It's like you can't tell. Because the way that you judge, the way you see, is literally blocking your sight. So that is so amazing in this. Like, there's not so much to tell about that, except there's a difference, a total difference. The two worlds don't meet, literally. You see a beautiful demonstration of that here. So how are you going to explain that? Well, it's not explainable at all. But in fact, there's a recognition of all that are there. They're all involved in the recognition. Now you can pick it up and defend yourself, thinking that you didn't hear it, and trying to attack your brother, making a difference real. Or you blend into it and recognize, oh, wow, I suddenly recognize your holiness, in which I feel myself lifted up in my holiness, in my completedness. I suddenly feel that we are communicating as one. That was the only invitation. There was nothing else asked. So you see that if you use your human lens to look at things, you will look for differences so that you can set yourself free from your own judgment, thinking that your brother has done it, thinking that something else is a little less worth or a little more worth. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's like you start to apply the thinking in opposites, and you got lost right away. Immediately, you're guilt all over. Yeah, you literally step into sin. Because you judge, you think that what you think about it really makes a difference. And it does not. Here is the pivot point of spiritual realization of truth. That is exactly the secret right there. Insights. The fourth dimensional consciousness is satisfied to have that mind which also was in Christ Jesus. God realized in our consciousness brings forth the fruits of the infinite. Only that. God realized in our consciousness brings forth the fruits of the infinite. And fruits of the infinite have no differentiation, have no opposites. You cannot get a little bit of it and also do other things. Like, no, this is complete. So it's like you're in it or not. The fourth dimensional consciousness is satisfied to have that mind, which was also in Christ Jesus. Yeah, I formulated this deep insight based on what Joel was saying a moment earlier. That's right here, like in the parenthesis in eternity. Let's read that too. The substance of the fruit is consciousness. And whatever consciousness contains, consciousness can bring forth, right? That it cannot come from somewhere else. So it's like whatever is in consciousness will bring it forth from consciousness. And this is true. Like this is true, of course. Not anything can be added to it. Inasmuch as God is our consciousness therefore contains infinity. So the measure of our bringing forth the fruits of consciousness must be infinite. Well, this so Joe. And it is right what he says. Okay, so here's one more expression. If, on the other hand, we believe that we have a consciousness of our own, and we measure our fruitage in terms of education and experience, and since these are limited, they cannot bring forth infinity. The fourth dimensional consciousness is satisfied to have that mind that was also in Christ Jesus, but it requires illumination to be able to realize that. And until that illumination comes, we will continue to judge by appearances and thereby hold ourselves in limitation. So you see here, the key is actually right in here. It's like you are satisfied. Okay, so let's bring it down to it's like a more simple expression. Then I will understand it too. I love this. So it's like the four-dimensional consciousness. Time and space are where the opposites are. Now, coming to a different experience, like literally going out of time, having an experience of being out of time, can only happen, occurring, when you release the three-dimensional realm as your reality, when you let go of your ideas about this. Then your consciousness is open to receive like a different reality, a different way of looking at everything, where you don't have to differentiate, where your judgment suddenly doesn't work at all. There's nothing to judge with, because there's nothing visible, there's nothing temporal. So you enter into an experience of the infinity of your being, you could say, of the totality of your being. So as long, this is what Joel says, as long as you keep on tissue fitting about good and bad, about yesterday and tomorrow, about the right guy, the good guy, the bad guy, and all this, believing your perception to be of value, to judge the situation that you think you're in, then you're stuck here, in this bubble, in this dream, in this limited place of human disaster, you could say. Because it's not fun. It is limitation, it is guilt, it is sin, it is hell, it is, yeah, you know all about it. It is a very bleak and dry kingdom, so to speak. Very much so. Like What on earth are you doing here? What on earth binds you to this world? You're still not satisfied with, or you're still playing the game of trying to figure out what is right and what is wrong, and say continuing that to entertain yourself in your little bleak kingdom? No, you cannot do that any longer. Now you have heard more. Joel is knocking on your door and saying like, hey, wait a minute, don't keep on doing this. It's enough now. Here's something else. The fourth dimensional consciousness. Getting out of time. As a direct experience. Being free of judgment for just a moment. Returning back to judgment immediately when you want it. But for that moment you're out of it. Having a whole different experience where you say like, oh my God, I want this all the time. Until you pick up a judgment and you find yourself back here. But so this is the realization. This is the transformational process you're in. Coming to the illumination of your mind in which you recognize there's nothing outside myself. There's nothing to judge. My judgment were based on nothing. On a very empty comparison between nothing and nothing. So that didn't give me anything that brought me total joy without opposite. It didn't bring me any grace. And so this is in fact your mission, to come to the place where you give up all your ties to your humanhood, all the ties to the mesmerism that you have been playing with in order to stay on the right side of limitation, which there isn't. Oh. All right, so you can say like, oh, when did this start anyway? Like, let's bring in some science. When did this all start? Because we got ourselves into this. Now there's a Swedish scientist, and she's Brummen, I think is her name. Like she have been doing a lot of quantum physics research and all this, and she discovered something that like, what about consciousness? What about consciousness before the Big Bang? What was it already there, or what is going on? Like the Big Bang would be the moment in which this universe was created. Suddenly, boom, everything materializes, and if you look at the stars, they're still going further away. So they must have started at a certain point. Well, this is about 14 billion years ago. So if you forgot about that, I understand. So it's like, bam, okay, so now everything is materialized into form, into planets, into galaxies, into you know what. And what happened actually before the Big Bang? Was there consciousness or not? For many years, Dr. Ström has worked on a quantum mechanical model that unites quantum physics with non-dual philosophy. Non-dual, no opposites. The theory is based on the idea that consciousness constitutes fundamental element of reality. The fundamental element of reality. Well, and that individual consciousnesses are parts of a larger interconnected field. In this model, phenomena that are now perceived as mysterious, such as telepathy or near-death experiences, can be explained as natural consequences of a shared field of consciousness. Before the Big Bang, she argues, reality existed as a kind of formless potential, a universal superposition containing all possible configurations of reality. In this primordial state, nothing is yet differentiated. No space, no time, no matter, and no individual experience. Differentiation begins when the field collapses into specific states, producing the structure of the universe. There is no chronological before and after in that phase. This collapse, initiated by universal thought, is not temporal, since time does not yet exist, but an atemporal creative act of mind, acting to the emergence of form from formlessness, or the realization of potential into actuality. Dr. Ström writes. All right, so deeper insights are here. To know God aright is life eternal. If I glorify myself, it is nothing. It is my Father who glorifies me. Bring it back to this is like, you can imagine that consciousness, we believe that there's such thing as time, right? We believe there's until we don't, but it's like we believe there's a continuity in time, that there's a yesterday and tomorrow, and today is like in the middle of it, something like this. Occurrences have taken part 10 years ago and will take part in 10 years from now. At least that is the idea. So in this, what Dr. Ström said, this scientist said, is like, there is no before and after, really. It's like there's a total occurrence here, and where there's a potential for form or not form, like just as well. And this means like we are so fixed in our belief that time exists and that things are sequential that you can't see that. So you can say like everything is still completely open. It isn't fixed. It isn't what it looks like. Now this is very specific and very precious, like that a scientist is actually coming to the conclusion of this and that it's being shared. Because in fact, the realization of God, like I said in the beginning, with no opposites at all, non-dualistic, like no opposites at all, and no matter, no form, but like continuous, infinite expression of itself, you can say like that is the realization of truth. That is what truth is. Like it isn't fixed. It isn't, there's no yesterday in truth. Like you can say everything is happening at the same time. Just like Joel could say in the poem, I'm looking at every direction at the same time. This is mind-blowing. So this is also a total part of the realization of God. It's totally mind-blowing. Literally, there's no thought connected to it, no human thought connected to it. But you discover yourself to be the thought of God. And you think that with God. And that is a very joyous, like a totality of joy without opposite. And without a yesterday and tomorrow. So it's like, it's creation itself. Now we can listen to Joel. So we step into the second part of the tape, and take for that like half an hour. So this was our say eighth expression of the secrets of consciousness. So I'm really happy that you joined. In case you're gonna go, like I'm really happy that you joined, and we continue next week with My Kingdom is Not of This World, which is a really nice continuation to this, you could say. So that's where new videos will be posted. You can listen to Joel, specific chapters about My Kingdom is Not of This World. So that's also very lovely. I started preparing it today. It's really beautiful. So I hope to see you then. But now we're going to listen to Joel first. Thank you so much.
It does not become a demonstrable truth until a certain moment when you pass into a state that is called realization or attainment or fulfillment. Probably in the Oriental world, the word mostly used is attainment, in the Occidental world, the word is realized or realization. God realization, Christ realization. God consciousness or Christ consciousness, consciousness of Christ. There comes a period, a specific moment when you pass from being the man of earth to being the man who has his foundation in Christ, has his being in Christ. The experience has been called many names. Often it's thought of as cosmic consciousness or the cosmic experience. But the word spiritual is more nearly correct. Spiritual consciousness, spiritual realization. What we call Christ realization, the Orientals called Buddha nature. And when they attain it in the highest, it's almost a nirvana, samadhi. But those more nearly refer to individual experiences in time and space, whereas the Christ experience is not like that. The Christ experience is like attaining Buddhahood or attaining Christ consciousness. When you attain Buddhahood or when you attain Christ consciousness, you have actually reached the place in experience when you're no longer entirely human. Up to that time, you can say, I am divine, I am spiritual, I am immortal, but it isn't true. It is only true of your potential being, not of your attained being. Just as you can look at the seed of a papaya tree and say this is papaya, which it is, but only potentially. You can't eat it yet. You have to await its fulfillment before you have fruitage. And so it is, within each of us is the seed of Christhood. And we can, in the absolute, say, I am Christ. But all we have to do is look at our human conduct for a little while, and we will quickly understand that we really aren't. We are only potentially Christ. And it's for this reason that so many people can say, I am the bread, and I am the wine, and I am the water. And they're still hungry and thirsty. And that is why so many ministers of the word can get up on the platform and say, I am the life, and I am the way, and I am the truth, and their congregations are still not fed. There is a specific point in the experience of each individual when they pass from the necessity of living their human lives humanly, and they pass into that state where they live by grace. I live, yet not I, Christ liveth my life. It overshadows us. It is always as if it were a presence over our shoulder or within us. It is always there. And that is why whenever you come into the presence of a person who has attained, not merely studied it and can talk the message, but one who has attained that particular moment of realization, you can feel that presence. And as you've read in the books or tapes, if there is a minister who has attained that, you can enter his church and feel it. It makes no difference whether it's a Hebrew synagogue or a Protestant church or a Catholic church. Or an Oriental one of any denomination or belief. If an individual has attained it, the room takes it on. The edifice takes it on. Their clothing takes it on. And those who come into its presence can know it. And those who are spiritually attuned immediately love it and take on its warmth and its glow. But those who are not ready for the spiritual experience hate it, and they become fighters of it. That is why Paul said that the human mind is enmity against God. That is where the term Antichrist comes from. There are those who, the very moment they come anywhere near the Christ Spirit, they begin to fight it and everything that it represents. On our Pastor Up Front program on television last Sunday. Oh, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It was the... Where was it? Well, anyhow, this was a minister in New York. Yes, a minister in New York. That's where it happened. Who got into a streetcar. And at one stop, some girls who had been at a religious meeting of some kind got on the streetcar humming a hymn. And others heard it and picked it up, and then this minister hearing it began to sing it, and they joined in, and first thing you know, nearly everybody in the streetcar was singing hymns going through the streets of New York. When they finished one of these hymns, one woman looked up and said, "For God's sake, stop that. Isn't there any place where a person can go and have peace even in a streetcar?" And as soon as the car stopped, she got up and went out. You know the conflict that must have aroused in her to come face to face with anything spiritual, and she probably had to face something within herself that she couldn't take. And so it is that wherever there isn't a readiness for a spiritual way, it breeds antagonism. And instead of coming into a feeling of peace and joy, when they come into the presence of a spiritually illumined person, it immediately arouses the worst in them, and they start fighting. And they not only fight themselves, but they fight anything or any person that seems to have any of it. Now, this point then that we are coming to is that point of transition to where something of a spiritual nature takes over the consciousness of an individual and begins to function through them. It's true, you already have it. It's true, you already are it. But it is not true that you are yet demonstrating it, because the experience itself must come to you. This is the experience you've heard me speak of as the one that came to me in the end of 1928 in Detroit, Michigan. It is the one that was responsible for, within 3 days, putting me in healing work, and within 18 months taking me out of the business world and making me a practitioner. And it is the one which has governed every step of my career from that moment to this. It's brought me into some very tight places and very unhappy experiences, and then through them and then out of them. Not because it would guide me into trouble, because in my humanhood those experiences were necessary. You see, now, every day of the week, thousands of people, think of it, thousands of people every day of the week fly over the North Pole. And now go back and think of the dozens of men that lost their lives trying to reach there. And without any effort and without any cold and without any inconvenience, we fly right over it. But you see, that was all because these first men died and suffered. So it is. No one has to suffer in Christ consciousness. But the pathway has to be explored. And none of us knows the route, not any more than you know it at this moment. You haven't the faintest idea what direction your feet will be led in once you are touched with this thing. And it may be away from everything that you consider normal, natural, and good. If you knew that the way in which you were being led was the right one for you, you just follow meekly. But not knowing it, you try to cling to positions outgrown. You try to cling to yesterday. You try to cling to yesterday's manner. And I have done the same thing. Not consciously, because all my life I have longed to go the spiritual way. But if you don't know which way that is, your human experience makes you go contrary to it. And it points out what it knows to be good, which spiritually isn't good at all. Now, I'm impressing on you the fact that, first, no progress is going to be made spiritually if you do not know the correct letter of truth. Secondly, knowing it is only one step of progress. The second step is practicing it, that is, applying it to every circumstance that comes up, whether it's lost baggage, or whether it's lumps or fevers, or lack or limitation, whether it's business problems, family problems, health problems, whether the problems are your own or your family's or patients or students, you will make very little progress until you begin practicing these principles and witness the fruitage. Every time you bear witness to a healing through the knowledge of these principles, you are making your real progress. And the more of these proofs that you have, the more of these so-called demonstrations that you have, the more progress you are making. Because you are attaining not only the inner conviction and the fruitage of practice, but what is most important is that with each practicing of these principles, your consciousness is melting, your human consciousness is dissolving, and your spiritual consciousness is evolving. Don't forget, this seed of our spiritual consciousness is buried under the layers of our centuries of human consciousness. That's why we all have racial traits, national traits, family traits. Those are the things that constitute our human consciousness. And those are the things that are interfering with the revelation of our spiritual consciousness. We have to eventually get to the place where we have no race, we have no religion, and we have no nation. Where we pay lip service to these by obedience to the rules and regulations of our immediate society, but inwardly we have risen so far above them that we can truthfully say, I'm neither Jew nor Gentile, neither bond nor free, neither American, neither Occidental nor Oriental. I am what I am, and all men are the same in my inner life. Then when you've reached that and lost nationalism and racialism and religion, then you can be obedient to the rules and laws of every nation, and you can enjoy any and every religion and the people of all the world. But not until then. Practice these principles, take every opportunity to do healing work. And even when you're not asked for it, when you see or hear appearances of discord, begin the application of these principles, because you're developing yourself. You are dissolving humanhood, bringing to light the spiritual consciousness, and then in a moment that ye know not of, the bridegroom cometh. In a moment that ye think not, the bridegroom cometh. In a moment that ye think not, an act of grace takes place within you. And when that act of grace takes place, something happens. Last night here, we didn't get to the mail until midnight. And at midnight I went inside to the office to dictate the mail, and Emma made some coffee and came in and sat down. And after each letter, I meditated, or before, as occasion required. And evidently, the night was auspicious, because I was getting beautiful responses to my work. And one of these letters was from a rather elderly lady in Desert Hot Springs. And I had a beautiful response in my work for her. And this morning at breakfast, the telephone rang, and here was her daughter on the phone to say that it was the best night she has had in 2 years, and the first night that she slept from midnight to 5 in the morning. Now, that's exactly what I'm trying to say to you, that when contact is made and the spirit is alive, that is when it is felt. Not just declaring that I am the way, not declaring that I am Christ, not declaring that I am spiritual. That isn't a power. That's only the power to help us toward the realization of it. But when the realization itself is there, when the presence itself is there, it does the work. When the presence itself is there, it lives your life. It goes before you to make the crooked places straight. You remember how many times I've said in class that it had to be the presence that went to England and had Alan Unwin and Ellen Fowler publish Infinite Way writings. It had to be a divine influence that could go down into Harper and Brothers and get them to publish Infinite Way books. It has always had to be, in my experience, this spiritual presence that financed all of this work. You know that. You have seen it over and over and over again. And so it is that without it, Paul knew what he meant when he said, we are just tinkling cymbals. That's all. We are nothing. We're just human beings, some better, some worse. But in that moment of transition, there's no need for words anymore, no need for thoughts. Because I am not performing it, and I am not doing it, but it is. And my function is to be still and let it have outlet. That is where we are when each student of the Infinite Way has to realize not only that I am of my own self nothing, and that I am and can of my own self do nothing, but that there is a Father within me. And abide in that until the experience takes place and the Father announces itself and takes over. And then our function after that is just to meditate. Listen. Let it come through. Let it perform its work. But then, very frankly, you really can't get out of bed in the morning until you have made room for it to take over. You just cannot leave your home until you have the assurance, the feel of that presence. And of course you wouldn't ever believe that you were helping a patient or a student or a member of your family if you didn't have that flow. But then after you have that, you wouldn't doubt it. And of course you would know the rest of the secret then, that the degree of their benefit from it would be the degree of their own receptivity. Then you'd know how much of a part it plays in us. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. It isn't possible for Jesus Christ to do what the Protestant Church thinks he does. Die on the cross and save them from the penalty of all their sins. Oh no. No, you must forgive 70 times 7, not for the sake of the person you're forgiving, for your own sake. It's your demonstration. You must love your neighbor as yourself, but not for their sake. They may be the very ones to crucify you. That can't make any difference to you, because you're not doing it for their sake. And all of these people who go around believing that they want to do good for the world, they're just self-hypnotized with their own ego. You can't do good for the world. Many a good man and woman's been hung and crucified for believing they could do good for the world. All you can do is do good for yourself. Attain your Christhood. And then let it do for the world what it will. But the minute you try to point it in somebody's direction and say, I'm going to save you, that's when you are lost. You don't know who is at the point of receptivity. You don't know, it probably is the most unlikely one that you could think of who will get the greatest benefit. It isn't your function to be concerned whether it's your own relatives or somebody else's, because you have no control over that. And so you learn that it is literally true that as ye sow, so shall ye reap. Not as Jesus Christ sows, so shall ye reap. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. And so the responsibility is to forget the world. You're not going to save the world. Nobody has saved it yet. If the Christ has saved me, it has saved me, but not the world. If it has saved thousands in the world, it has saved thousands in the world, but not the world. If Jesus says, I have overcome the world, he doesn't say the world has been overcome. He only says, I have overcome the world. Go ye and do likewise. This is an individual thing, and that is why mysticism can never flourish except in a nation of individuals. It can never flourish under socialism or communism. It can never flourish under social security, because the dependence, consciously or unconsciously, is on the government. The dependence is on the security. The dependence is on collectivism. It is like, in union there is strength. That statement is repeated over and over and over again, and it isn't true. It isn't true. You can see that in the world history today. 7/10 of the world is united against 3/10 of it, and the 3/10 of it are keeping them hopping. All the rest of this free world, they all act like tenderfeet, and the other fellows got a gun shooting at their feet and making them dance. And that's exactly what Russia is doing to this country and to England and to France and all the countries of the world. Make us dance to their tune. We don't dare have a voice in the history of the world. We don't dare tell Russia what we'd like to do and then go and do it. We ask them first. And then we consult with our allies. And then we agree to do it after we say we won't. Why? Because we've lost our individuality. And they've gained theirs by virtue of the fact that they've taken it away from the population and put it in the hands of 1 man or 12 men. Now with them it's a temporary success. In the end they'll be swallowed up. Because the 1 or the 2 men will pass from the scene and there's no other individuals left there. Here an individual will pop up one of these days with the courage to be an individual. And if not here, it'll be in England. If not in England, it'll be in Canada. It'll be in one of the free countries that an individual will raise up. Another Theodore Roosevelt will come to life. And then we'll see the free world reestablished. And now remember, mysticism or conscious union with God or the spiritual experience can only come to an individual. Regardless of my voicing this, regardless of my actual consciousness of the presence here, I can't be assured of your experiences. I can't make you experience it. And it may be that 1 person in the room or 2 will come to it and not the others. Why? Not because of my will. It's because as ye sow, so shall ye reap. It's an absolutely individual thing, and it can't be experienced collectively. And even if each one of us, every one of us in this room were to experience it, it still would not be a collective experience. It still would be each individual experiencing it themselves. So it is. A Rickenbacker demonstrates this, and 6 other people with him benefit by it. But the 6 other people still amount to nothing, whereas he's going on to be bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Why? Because just as Jesus could feed the multitudes, so did Rickenbacker feed his. But where are the multitudes that the Master fed? And where are the 6 that benefited by being with Rickenbacker? It's an individual experience. One Christ can help 1 billion people across, but he can only help them across. They themselves must walk that path. Now, in your own experience, and more particularly for those who come to you, don't try to take them across this thing tomorrow or the day after tomorrow and think you're going to save them 7 years of study and work. Be emphatic. They must know the correct letter of truth, and then knowing it, they must practice it. If they know it and practice it, they too will be led to where the consciousness itself will take over. All right, with that now we'll meditate.